Did you know that the sugar in your cup of tea once sustained the most brutal slavery system in history? This story, which began in the sugarcane fields of the Caribbean, is not just about a food. It's about a bloody chapter in empire, greed, and humanity. Do you know how many people paid the price for your sweet tea with their lives? You are watching Crumbs of Time. Every dish carries a forgotten story. By the end of this video, you'll never look at your cup of sweet tea the same way again. Stay till the final bite. Subscribe for more forgotten history. Let's go. In 1810, a pound of sugar in England cost a common laborer a full day's wages. By 1900, that same laborer was stirring sugar into his tea 3 times a day, without a second thought. That shift from luxury to necessity changed the course of world history more than almost any other commodity. But sugar's story doesn't begin in England, and it doesn't begin on a plantation. It begins nearly 10,000 years ago, in a jungle in the South Pacific. In the tropical lowlands of the island of New Guinea, indigenous people discovered something no human had ever tasted in quite this form: a tall, thick, fibrous grass whose stalk released a pure, concentrated sweetness. Raw sugarcane. For thousands of years, that was the whole of sugar's story. People simply cut the stalk, chewed it, and sucked out the juice for energy and pleasure. There was no refining, no trade. By around 3500 BC, sugarcane reached the Indian subcontinent. And that is exactly where everything changed. Ancient Indian farmers didn't just chew the cane. They worked out how to press the juice, boil it, and let it crystallize into a rough, brown solid. They called it kanda, the root of the English word candy. For the first time in human history, sugar was transformed into a product, storable, transportable. India had essentially invented sugar as a commodity. Writings from this period describe sugar almost reverently, and physicians across the subcontinent began prescribing it for headaches, stomach ailments, even sexual weakness. Sugar was sacred. Around 326 BC, Alexander the Great sent his armies east into India. His soldiers returned with an extraordinary story. One of Alexander's officers, Nearchus, described a reed that produced honey without bees. The Greeks were stunned. They had honey, of course, but the idea that sweetness could come from a grass growing out of the ground seemed almost unbelievable. Yet even after this discovery, sugar remained a foreign curiosity in the Western world for centuries. It was extremely expensive, difficult to transport, and nowhere near common enough to enter everyday life in Greece or Rome. When sugar did appear in Roman pharmacies, it was sold in tiny quantities, at prices only the wealthiest citizens could afford. Roman physicians prescribed it for stomach ailments and eye infections. A single pound of sugar could cost the equivalent of a month's wages for an ordinary laborer. Sugar was not food, it was medicine. And for nearly 1,000 years, that's exactly what it remained in Europe. The people who truly unlocked sugar's potential were Arab traders and chemists during the Islamic Golden Age. Between the 7th and 13th centuries, Arab scholars perfected the process of refining sugar. They developed techniques that purified the crystals, producing sugar whiter, finer, and longer lasting than anything India had made. They built sugar mills across Persia, Egypt, and North Africa. They planted sugarcane wherever the climate allowed, and they began trading refined sugar across the known world. By the time European crusaders reached the Levant in 1096, Sugar was already deeply woven into Middle Eastern cuisine and medicine. The Crusaders tasted it and were captivated. They called it the most precious product, and knights began hauling sacks of sugar back to Europe alongside their swords and holy relics. Venice, sitting at the crossroads of East and West, became Europe's gateway for sugar. Venetian merchants imported raw sugar from the Middle East, refined it in their own facilities, and sold it across the continent at staggering markups. For about 200 years, Venice held what was essentially a monopoly on the European sugar market, and the profits were enormous. In medieval Europe, sugar was treated the way we treat gold today. Kings displayed sugar sculptures at royal banquets to flaunt their wealth. The English royal household kept detailed inventories of sugar, the way modern governments track gold reserves. At Henry III's wedding feast in 1236, the royal household purchased over 300 pounds of sugar for a single celebration, a sum worth more than a knight's annual income. Apothecaries locked it behind their counters alongside opium and rare spices. It was prescribed for everything from coughs to depression. If you could afford sugar, you were somebody. And if you couldn't, you probably never tasted it at all. But there was a problem. Growing sugarcane requires a tropical or subtropical climate. It doesn't grow in England. It doesn't grow in France. And it certainly doesn't grow in Scandinavia. European demand was skyrocketing, but the supply chain depended entirely on trade with the Islamic world, an expensive, unreliable, and politically fraught trade route. This is where the part of sugar's history that most people never learn begins, and it's the part that shaped the modern world more than almost anything else. In the 1400s, Portugal began colonizing Atlantic islands, Madeira, the Canary Islands, São Tomé, off the coast of West Africa. They discovered that these islands had the perfect climate for growing sugarcane. Portuguese planters established the first European-controlled sugar plantations, and they needed labor. At first, they used convicts and poor Europeans. That didn't last. Sugar cultivation is brutal. Planting, harvesting, and processing cane demanded back-breaking labor in extreme heat, often 18 to 20 hours a day. Workers died from exhaustion, injury, and disease. So Portugal turned to captive Africans. The sugar plantations of São Tomé became the testing ground, where the most horrific labor system in modern history took shape. In 1492, when Columbus crossed the Atlantic, he carried sugarcane cuttings with him on his second voyage. The Caribbean climate was perfect, the soil was perfect, and European demand was insatiable. The process of making sugar was itself a kind of hell. After cutting the cane by hand in tropical heat, workers had to feed the stalks into massive grinding mills within hours before the juice spoiled. Hands and fingers were constantly at risk of being caught in the rollers, so plantation owners kept hatchets nearby to quickly sever a trapped limb before the entire body was pulled through. After grinding, the juice was boiled in a series of copper kettles, each one hotter than the last, often exceeding 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The work never stopped. What followed reshaped the entire Atlantic world. Spain, Portugal, England, France, and the Netherlands all rushed to establish sugar colonies in the Caribbean and South America. Barbados, Jamaica, Haiti, Cuba, and Brazil became sugar factories. By the 1650s, tiny Barbados, an island roughly the size of San Antonio, Texas, was producing more sugar than all of Brazil and had become the most valuable colony in the entire British Empire, worth more than all the North American colonies combined. The human cost was catastrophic. Between the 1500s and the 1800s, roughly 12.5 million enslaved Africans were forced onto ships and transported across the Atlantic, and a massive portion of them ended up on sugar plantations. Conditions were so brutal that the average life expectancy of an enslaved person on a Caribbean sugar plantation was just 7 years after arrival. 7 years. Plantation owners had calculated that it was cheaper to work people to death and buy replacements than to provide humane living conditions. Sugar didn't just benefit from slavery. Sugar drove slavery. It was the economic engine that made the entire transatlantic slave trade profitable. But sugar plantations produced something the colonial powers never expected: resistance. On the French colony of Saint-Domingue, which we know today as Haiti, enslaved workers on sugar plantations launched history's only successful large-scale slave revolt. In 1791, hundreds of thousands of enslaved people rose up, burned the plantations to the ground, and fought a 12-year war against French, Spanish, and British armies. By 1804, they had won their independence. Haiti became the first free black republic in the Western Hemisphere, and it was born on sugar plantations. The Haitian Revolution sent shockwaves through Europe. France lost its most profitable colony overnight. Napoleon, who had dreamed of a sugar empire in the Americas, was forced to change course. In 1803, he sold the Louisiana Territory to the United States for about $15 million, roughly 4 cents an acre, partly because, without Haiti's sugar revenue, holding on to that vast territory no longer made financial sense. Sugar's collapse in Haiti had literally doubled the size of the United States. Napoleon faced another problem too. Britain's Royal Navy had blockaded French ports, cutting off access to Caribbean sugar. France needed sweetness, and it needed a domestic source. German chemist Andreas Marggraf had discovered decades earlier that European sugar beets contained sucrose identical to that in cane. Napoleon poured resources into beet sugar production, ordering tens of thousands of acres planted across France and offering cash bounties to farmers who converted their fields. It worked. By 1813, France was producing millions of pounds of beet sugar a year. The monopoly that tropical sugarcane had held for thousands of years was broken. This created a rivalry that lasted more than a century: tropical cane versus temperate beet. The competition drove prices down and production up. By the mid-1800s, sugar was cheaper than at any point in human history. The Industrial Revolution accelerated this even further. Steam-powered mills could crush sugarcane faster than any human or animal-powered system. Railroads could move raw cane from field to factory in hours instead of days. Refining technology improved to the point where producers could make sugar so white and fine it bore no resemblance to the rough brown crystals of ancient India. White sugar became a symbol of purity and modernity. And then came the union that would come to define modern eating habits: sugar and tea. Britain was already importing massive quantities of tea from China, but tea on its own is bitter. Sugar made it palatable to working-class tastes. By 1850, British workers were drinking an average of 2 cups of sweetened tea a day. Sugar imports to Britain doubled between 1840 and 1860 alone. Cheap sweetened tea became the unofficial fuel of the British Empire, and the sugar colonies existed to keep that supply flowing. By the late 19th century, sugar had worked its way into every corner of Western cooking. Jams, candies, baked goods, sweetened drinks, all became staples of the working class diet. There's a fascinating and dark reason for this. Sugar delivered cheap, fast calories. Factory workers putting in 12 to 14-hour shifts needed energy, and sugar delivered it faster than almost anything else. Industrialists loved it, because sweet tea and jam sandwiches kept workers going without any significant food expense. Sugar became the fuel of industrial capitalism. The Coca-Cola Company was founded in 1886. By the early 1900s, Coca-Cola was selling millions of bottles a year, everyone loaded with sugar. Other soda companies followed suit. Candy bars hit the market. Plain oatmeal gave way to sugar-coated breakfast cereals. In the 20th century, American sugar consumption reached levels no civilization had ever experienced. By 1970, the average American was consuming over 100 pounds of sugar a year, the weight of a large dog in sugar every year for every single person. And the sugar industry knew this was a problem. As early as the 1950s, internal research at major sugar companies showed a strong link between sugar consumption and heart disease. But instead of publishing this research, the industry buried it. In 1967, the Sugar Research Foundation paid 3 Harvard scientists, the equivalent of about $50,000 in today's money, to publish a review that downplayed sugar's role and instead blamed dietary fat. The study was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the most prestigious medical journals in the world. It shaped nutritional policy for decades. This is the part that should make you angry. For 30 years, the American public was told that fat was the enemy. Low-fat diets became the standard recommendation. Food companies stripped fat out of their products and loaded them with sugar to keep the flavor. The result was an explosion of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease that has killed millions of people. And the sugar industry knew. They had the data. They chose profit over public health. This manipulation began to come to light in 2016 when researchers at the University of California uncovered the sugar industry's internal documents. The papers showed exactly how the industry had manipulated science. The tobacco playbook applied to food. Create doubt, fund friendly research, attack critics, and delay regulation for as long as possible. And while the sugar industry was busy burying research, a new kind of sugar was quietly taking over the American food supply. In the early 1970s, Japanese scientists developed a process for converting cornstarch into a cheap liquid sweetener, high fructose corn syrup. American corn farmers were already growing far more corn than the country needed, thanks to government subsidies. This syrup gave them a new market. By 1984, both Coca-Cola and Pepsi had switched from cane sugar to high fructose corn syrup in their American products. Within a decade, HFCS had replaced cane sugar in nearly every processed food and drink in the country, and most people never even realized the source had completely changed. Today, the average American consumes about 17 teaspoons of added sugar a day. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 6 teaspoons a day for women and 9 for men. We're consuming roughly double to triple the recommended amount. Sugar hides in places most people never check: pasta sauce, bread, salad dressing, yogurt, granola bars. The average flavored yogurt contains more sugar per ounce than a candy bar. A single regular soda can contains about 10 teaspoons of sugar, more than an entire day's recommended limit, in one drink. The health consequences are staggering. Over 42% of American adults are now classified as obese. More than 37 million Americans have diabetes, and another 96 million have prediabetes. Heart disease remains the #1 killer in the United States. And while sugar isn't the only factor, decades of research confirm it's one of the biggest. The global picture is just as alarming. Worldwide sugar production now exceeds 180 million tons a year. Brazil is the largest producer, followed by India, the very country that invented sugar crystallization thousands of years ago. The average person on Earth now consumes about 50 pounds of sugar a year, a number that keeps climbing in developing countries as Western diets spread. Some countries are fighting back. Mexico introduced a soda tax in 2014, and consumption dropped by about 12% in the first year. The United Kingdom introduced its own sugar levy in 2018, which prompted major drinks manufacturers to reformulate their products with less sugar even before the tax took effect. Several U.S. cities, including Berkeley, Philadelphia, and Seattle, have enacted local sugar taxes. Early research suggests these taxes do reduce consumption, even though the sugar industry has spent millions of dollars lobbying against them. Sugar's story spans 10,000 years, 6 continents, and virtually every major historical event of the last 5 centuries. It was there when empires rose. It was there when millions were enslaved. It was there when revolutions erupted and colonies collapsed. It was there when the Industrial Revolution transformed the world. And it's here now, in almost everything we eat and drink, shaping our health, our economies, and our politics in ways most people never think about. A 10,000-year-old grass from a jungle in New Guinea became the most consequential crop in human history. It built fortunes, it destroyed lives, it toppled empires, and it's sitting in your kitchen right now, in your cereal, your ketchup, your bread, waiting to be noticed. If this story surprised you, subscribe to Crumbs of Time. We uncover the hidden history behind everyday food every week. Drop a comment and tell us, which part of sugar's history surprised you the most? And hit like, so more people can find this story. The next time you stir a spoonful of sugar into your tea, remember, it's not just sweetness. Hidden inside it is empire, slavery, revolution, and 1,000 years of history. Thank you.